Hello everyone, welcome back to the Strike Point Media channel. Please subscribe and like my videos because today's story will take you straight into one of the most shocking moments of this ongoing conflict. When Ukrainian drones struck a Russian train station and what followed left the world stunned. Picture this for a moment. The sound of engines overhead in the early dawn, the silence of commuters waiting on the platforms, and then, in a flash of fire and thunder, the entire scene transforms into chaos. This is not just another battlefield strike. This is the kind of event that ripples far beyond the immediate blast zone, echoing through political chambers, military command rooms, and ordinary homes across continents. When drones hit steel, when fire meets the iron tracks of a Russian train station, history doesn't just unfold, it erupts. From the exterior, the scene was terrifying yet mesmerizing. Surveillance footage captured sparks flying, massive columns of smoke climbing into the gray sky, and shattered glass raining across the square. The architecture of the station, once symbolic of movement and progress, stood scarred and punctured. Trains that should have been leaving filled with passengers were frozen in place, their metallic shells twisted under the heat of sudden explosions. Cars nearby caught fire, sirens pierced the air, and emergency crews scrambled to reach the wreckage. The power of the drones was not just in their destructive payload, but in the message they sent. Nowhere, not even in the heart of Russia's transport arteries, could feel secure anymore. The exterior shot tells 1,000 words of despair, fear, but also determination, because every strike becomes a signal in this war of endurance. Inside, the interior told an even bigger story. The halls were vast, echoing chambers now littered with debris, scattered belongings, torn seats, and suitcases that would never be reclaimed. The once grand ceiling bore cracks like veins, dust coating the chandeliers and murals. In this huge interior space, hundreds of people who had come for ordinary journeys found themselves trapped in panic. Mothers clutching children, soldiers racing through the corridors to rescue, and workers frantically trying to extinguish flames that leapt from room to room. It was a big picture of human emotion, magnified within a building meant for peaceful transit, but suddenly transformed into a cavern of terror. This interior is not simply a physical setting. It became the stage where resilience collided with fear, where instinct for survival overpowered the ordinary routine of catching a train. The echoes of footsteps and cries reverberated through the enormous space, making the interior not only physically large, but symbolically massive. A reminder that war does not stay confined to borders. It infiltrates the daily lives of civilians in dramatic, oversized ways. Performance became the next critical lens. These drones, relatively small in appearance, delivered impact on a scale far greater than their size. Analysts compared their maneuverability to precision, guided missiles, but with flexibility that makes them even harder to counter. Their performance underlines a shift in modern warfare, where speed, stealth, and accuracy replace the need for massive arsenals. In this strike, their ability to bypass radar defenses and strike with pinpoint precision demonstrated how Ukraine is leveraging innovation against traditional power. The drone's performance didn't just destroy tracks and trains, it disrupted logistics, delayed military resupply, and rattled the confidence of a nation that once believed its infrastructure was untouchable. Every successful hit showcases how performance is measured not only in the size of the explosion, but in the tremors it sends through strategic planning and morale. Safety features in this context reveal irony. Train stations are designed with safety in mind: emergency exits, fire suppression systems, first aid stations, but none of those features were prepared for aerial drone warfare. Sprinkler systems hissed uselessly against blazing fires, emergency lights flickered as power grids collapsed, and underground shelters filled faster than they were ever designed for. Yet, within this chaos, some safety measures saved lives. Reinforced tunnels provided refuge for many, automated alarms gave precious seconds for evacuation, and trained staff guided panicked crowds to safer zones. Safety features showed both their limitations and their unexpected strength. It raises a larger question. How can civilian spaces be reimagined when the threats they face are no longer fire hazards or electrical faults, but remote, controlled machines carrying warheads? This tragedy forces a reevaluation of what safety means in the 21st century. Unique selling points may sound like commercial language, but in military storytelling, they highlight the defining factors that separate one strike from another. The uniqueness of this event lies in how drones turned a transportation hub into a front line. It was not a battlefield trench or a border crossing. It was a civilian artery that connected communities, businesses, and daily lives. The strike symbolized adaptability, showcasing how asymmetric warfare can target not just military hardware, but the infrastructure that sustains an enemy's rhythm. Its unique selling point was shock. The shock of seeing an ordinary train station lit up like a battlefield, the shock of realizing defenses are porous, and the shock of global audiences who now ask, how far will this conflict escalate? For Ukraine, the unique selling point is clear. They can reach deeper, faster, and more unexpectedly than anyone once thought possible. Price in this narrative is not measured only in rubles or dollars, but in lives, stability, and the long-term economic drain. The immediate cost was the destruction of trains, repair of rail lines, rebuilding of shattered walls, and loss of commerce as schedules collapsed. The price also extended into the stock markets, where uncertainty drives investors into retreat. The families who lost loved ones or homes cannot put a figure on their suffering, but the emotional price weighs heavier than any budget sheet. For Ukraine, the drones may be cheaper than missiles, offering an efficient way to strike, but for Russia, the price of repairing trust, restoring services, and convincing citizens of safety climbs into billions. Every strike tilts the cost-benefit scale, showing how modern war drains resources not in distant battlefields, but in the very heart of national infrastructure. The conclusion of this unfolding story is sobering yet unavoidable. Ukrainian drones striking a Russian train station marks more than just a tactical hit. It is a symbol of how warfare has transformed, how civilian life is caught in the crossfire, and how resilience becomes the currency of survival. The exterior tells us of destruction. The interior magnifies the human cost. Performance demonstrates the power of small innovations. Safety features highlight vulnerabilities. Unique selling points reveal the psychological shock, and price reminds us of the staggering toll. As we watch these events, we must not forget that behind every statistic, every headline, are real people whose lives have been permanently altered. This is not simply about machines versus structures. It is about humanity struggling to endure in an age where the battlefield can appear anywhere, anytime. The world watches, leaders respond, and history writes itself in smoke and fire over railway lines that once carried nothing more dangerous than cargo and passengers. And as always, here on Strike Point Media, we will continue to bring you these stories not for spectacle, but for understanding. Please subscribe, share, and join the conversation, because the world is changing faster than ever, and together We must keep up with its relentless pace.